Good afternoon, everyone. We're pleased to be here today to provide an overview of the 2024-2025 investment proposal and capital proposal process. Joining me today are Kimberly Daplish, Controller, Susan Freilich, Financial Analyst, and Danielle Bernison, Financial Planning Analyst. During the presentation, we'll stop for Q&A after both Susan and Danielle have completed their demos for both the capital and investment proposals, and then again at the end of the presentation. Please note this presentation is being recorded and will be shared shortly on Working at Mohawk for future viewing. Today in our presentation, we'll cover guiding principles, we'll have a refresher on prioritization and categorization, and human resource requirements. We'll review what's required to create a high-quality submission. We'll have a demonstration of the tool by both Susan and Danielle. We'll review the key contacts as well as the next steps. In terms of the guiding principles, a limited pool of funds will be available to finance investment and capital requests this year. Due to the limited pool of funds, financial managers must discuss proposals with their VP prior to entering them in the intake tool. Management will be evaluating all investment and capital requests for priority approval based on some key guiding principles, which include the investment must significantly align to key strategic plan priorities and or align to the college's strategic mandate agreement. The investment focuses on the enablement of the 2024-2025 approved enrollment plan, and the investment is a request of a mandated legislative requirement. Once the proposals have been submitted into the respective tool, they will be compiled by each VP division. The investment in IT, the campus master plan implementation committees will then review the submissions and prioritize the initiatives. The Mohawk Executive Group will approve the final list of priority projects prior to presentation for approval to the Board of Governors in April 2024. The intake tool will have a similar prioritization and categorization consideration section, which aligns to the key guiding principles for requests. Each of the 4 questions is to be answered by choosing the statement that best matches the project outcomes. All fields are mandatory, and then based on the given responses, the tool will systematically calculate and priority rank each request. This is important in prioritizing initiatives, given there is a limited pool of funds available to finance investment and capital requests this year. For 2024-2025, the intake tool reflects 7 strategic aspirations along with their related strategic directions. The 7th option under strategic aspirations is strong foundations, which was introduced last year, if you can recall. As mentioned in the college's strategic plan, strong foundations ensures that we can progress towards our aspirations and ultimately achieve our leadership outcomes. This option should be selected for situations where a proposal may not directly tie to one of the 6 strategic aspirations, but the proposal is essential for us to operationally achieve the strategic aspirations. The subcategories will include people, planning, reputation, technology, and financial health. The prioritization and categorization considerations, which are shown on the slide, are first, the number of strategic priorities or aspirations that are supported as a result of the investment, the number of students and or employees that are impacted by the investment, the ROI that is generated within 5 years, and this includes revenue generation, cost savings, and or process efficiencies, and finally, the enterprise risk that is mitigated as a result of the investment. The intake tool will have the human resources section, which is similar to last year, which is to be completed when the project requires human resources during the planning or implementation phases of the project. Project owners are requested to provide the department, such as internal IT support or facilities, the role or title of persons required, such as project manager or business analyst, the estimated effort, such as the number of working days per month, and the date range for the project to be completed. This is non-financial data, so there's no need to include salary and benefit costs in this section. The intent of this informational section is to list major departments, roles, estimated efforts, and timeframe required on the project to promote advanced awareness and to confirm if there are existing resources available to carry out the work on the projects across different areas of the college. Essentially, this will determine if and what additional staff is required. I'll now pass it over to Kim.
Thanks, Samir. So before entering your requests into tools, please consult with the following areas to ensure a higher quality submission. If your capital request has an impact on facility space, including the modification of space to accommodate academic equipment, please consult with Lee Sordo, Director of Facilities Planning and Engineering Services, so that her team is aware of your proposal and can provide you with a quote for any required facility modifications. They will also be able to advise you of their human resource requirements to achieve your objective. If your request has an information technology component, please consult with Jeffrey Silva, Director, IT Infrastructure and Operations, for infrastructure, audiovisual, display, laptops, and room setups, or Ashish Bhagrath, Director of Agile Delivery and IT Portfolio Management, for software builds, integrations, and quality assurance. IT will work with you to provide guidance and feedback to your request, as well as cost and time estimates, including any additional IT resources required to support your request. Within purchasing services, Sherry Giles, Director of Strategic Procurement, can assist with costing and purchasing requirements of goods and services and ensure adherence to college purchasing policies. And within human resources, please speak with your human resources strategic partner, or if you are requesting any staffing changes. Financial managers should confirm such things as the correct employee group, whether the position is full-time or contract, the appropriate pay band, a realistic start date, and any implications if there are going to be changes to existing positions. And lastly, if you are requesting to have any EPMO staffing, please consult with John Sozio, Director of EPMO. The college has an approval of capital renovation and maintenance projects policy that helps lead and guide the capital request process. Further guiding principles specific to capital requests include that the project will improve health and safety or accessibility, the project is mandated by legislative requirements, or is required to maintain the college's infrastructure. Expenses should be one-time in nature and should be in excess of $5,000. All costs associated with the request should be included, such as the purchase of equipment, plus costs associated with renovations or information technology needs required to operationalize the equipment. The purchasing department can assist with obtaining costs for equipment, renovations, and maintenance, and all costs should be detailed and confirmed. Per unit costs are to be provided rather than one lump sum amount. For example, if you require 10 widgets and they cost $1,000 each, you would provide that level of detail rather than requesting $10,000 in widgets. Include any ongoing annual costs beyond the current year, and specify the currency the goods need to be paid in, if not in Canadian dollars. And taxes should be included in the request. 3.41% is the college's non-rebatable tax rate, and actual costs equals the amount prior to HST times by this amount. And now I'll pass it to Susan.
Thanks, Kim. The Ministry provides a capital grant called the College Equipment Renewal Fund, and this is just a general overview of its guidelines. The purpose of the SURF grant is to help the colleges acquire and renew instructional equipment. Eligible equipment that qualifies under SURF includes replacement of existing or acquisition of new instructional equipment to meet industry standards, such as computers, lab, and shop equipment. Minor alterations or renovations to leased or owned facilities to accommodate the new equipment, such as necessary room or electrical modifications. Instructional equipment that provides accommodations to persons with disabilities is also eligible. And eligible expenditures include primarily ancillary expenses or administrative expenses or towards activities already funded. Okay, so at this point, we're going to switch over to the intake tool and do a demonstration. We'll demonstrate the login, some navigation, entering, and viewing the proposals. So just give me a moment to switch over. So at the end of the training seminar, you'll be provided with a link to the Capital tool. Samir will be sending out that information. And you'll just copy that link into your browser. And after a few moments, the tool will open up. You will also need to log into the system if you haven't done so through your regular My Mohawk login. So once you're in the tool, you're brought into an intake or the landing page. And on this page is some information that might be helpful. So there's some contact information for your FPAs or IT support. And then there's some additional documents here to help you guide during your inputting of the proposals. So there's a frequently asked questions document of common questions that are asked. One of the questions is what type of proposal. If you're not sure what type of proposal, such as are you doing an investment proposal, capital, IT proposal, there is some more explanation in that document, as well as other questions and answers. And then there's also a link to a training manual. And in the training manual is a visual of the different screens that are inputted. And then also in the appendix section, there's a walkthrough of each type of proposal. So there's an investment IT proposal, and Appendix 2 has the creating a capital proposal. And then in addition to that, in Appendix 3, there's a expend type. So if you're entering a capital proposal and you're not sure of what type of expense to include in your financial section of the investment of the proposal, this might give you a guideline of what type of expense to choose from. So back to the intake tool. To get into the tool itself, you just click on this icon and it will open up eventually. And here is the main screen of the intake tool. And here in the list is a list of all proposals that have been previously entered by me. Right now I am in the training environment. So this is just examples of various projects that I've created. But you'll see only the proposals that you yourself have created on this list. And if it's the first time that you're in the tool, this screen will be empty. So to start to create a new proposal, you'll just click on the icon here for new proposal, and you're brought into a proposal screen. And you'll see across the top some of the various functions that you can choose from. So you can save, close. The next brings you to, on the left-hand side, through the various menus of the proposals. And then if you hit previous, it brings you back up to the screen. And you can also link to the different screens by just clicking on each screen on the left-hand side. And then when you've completed your proposal and you're ready to submit it for review, you would click the submit button. And if you just want to cancel something that you've started, you would just cancel. So the main screen for entering information is the proposal screen. And you can see here some items. Anything with the red asterisk is a required field. Anything with a icon is information. So it gives you additional information about what is required for that particular text box. And you can see here for project description, it just asks you to provide a unique description and gives you an idea of what characters are you can't input for this particular field. And if you hover over any of the items, that would allow you to see what type of data they would like you to input. A couple other items, you can expand these boxes if to read the text a little bit better, or you can reduce it out. And you can also copy from other files information into these fields. So to start off with a capital proposal, you would just enter a description of your project. The fiscal year defaults to the current budget year. And then for proposal classification, you want to select the type of proposal in the drop-down menu. This screen does determine the view of your financial cost screen. So right now, if we select investment proposal, you'll see a view for investment proposal. but in our case, we're doing a capital proposal example. So if you click capital proposal, you'll see that the financial cost screen looks different. Then the next screen is requesting division. So you'll choose the MEG division from the drop-down menu. And then requesting department. And then for description, you just enter the proposal's proposal's background and purpose. And you can copy into these fields if you have that information from another source. For rationale, you want to include information that provides additional background to support the request. So things you could include are regulatory, compliance, systems requirements, other impacts such as vendor requirements, etc. There is a limit of 4,000 characters to this screen, I believe. And then for target start date, you want to select a reasonable start date for next fiscal for your project. So in our case, we'll select May 1st, 2024. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see a blanked out fields showing what status your proposal is in. So it's currently showing the proposal is in draft status. The next field is called subclassification. And this is driven, the types of items that come up on your drop-down menu are driven by the type of proposal that you've selected. So you can see here, you will choose from the various capital proposals, the option that best fits with your project. In this case, it's academic equipment. So for org, you want to select the org that is specific to your project. So you can select the specific academic program, the department, or project sponsors org. For project sponsor, you want to select the individual through the drop-down menu, but you want to select someone who is at the associate dean, director level, or above. So you can filter through the drop-down menu by entering the last name. I did skip over a field for proposal requester. Normally that will default to your name, but if you're entering a proposal on behalf of someone else, you could also go through the drop-down menu and select that person. The next field is a multi-year proposal. So if your proposal has more than 1 year worth of expenses, you could click this box. And then for outcomes, objectives, and benefits, you want to provide the expected outcomes and any financial or non-financial benefits to the project. And then for impacted division, provide any details on any department or vendor or resources that would be impacted. So for example, if your project impacted IT, you could include IT. And the last box to complete is the target finish date. And again, you'll select through the calendar a estimated end date. So at this point, it's a good idea to save your proposal, and once you save it, it will bring you back to the main menu, and you'll see the proposal created. It's been given a proposal ID number, and then to go back into it, you just click on the proposal, and let's move on to the next screens to complete the proposal. So for prioritization and categorization, as Samir mentioned, you want to choose the best statement that best matches the project outcomes. And it will, through a series of drop-down menus, give you the available options. So we'll choose Enable Future Ready, and then that opens up the various submenus of that particular aspiration. And again, you'll just choose the best strategic direction for that, for your project. For prioritization, if the project is required by law or regulatory purposes, you would click this text box here, but in our example, it is not. And then for each of the 4 prioritizations, you'll select the one that best suits your project. So on to resourcing. This is the human resources requirements field. Again, it's non-financial. And the purpose of this section is to capture any human resources requirements. So to add a line item, you would just click Add Resource Requirement, and you would enter the department, the role, and the estimated effort. Again, it's just an estimate, so usually we're looking for days per month. And then the estimated start and end date. And then if you had to add additional resources, you would click Add here. And then just to delete a line item or cancel it, you could hit the icon and it would delete that line. So next screen is the financial costs. And specific for capital proposals, you'll want to enter enough detail to describe the project for each component of the proposal. So if you have multiple types of equipment, if you have IT equipment plus regular equipment, if you have some facilities or renovation requirements, you would add a line item for each of those elements so that we could determine and assess the impact of that proposal. So to add a line item, you would hit Add Cost, select the fiscal year, and provide a description of that particular line. And this is the expend types that you would choose one for capital. So you can see here there's a range of costs. So if your equipment is less than $5,000 per item, you would select that line item. But in our example, it's going to be between $5,000 and $25,000, so you would select that from the drop-down menu. And then add a per unit cost, and do include the taxes in this number. So our example is going to be 12,500. And in terms of quantity, you want to add the quantity, and you can see the cost extends out here. There's also a summary at the bottom of the total project by year. So let's do one more example. Let's get my spelling right. And we're going to select renovation because these would be new outlets. Add in your cost and your unit price, and you can see the total project extend out here. If you had a cost beyond the current year, you would select the fiscal year, the expend type, and just to see an example, you can see the cost by year here. And if you wanted to delete an item, again, just hit the delete icon. So the last screen is the attachments, and this is where you could attach supporting documents that will help explain the proposal. So the type of the format you can attach are Word, Excel or PDF documents. And the types of things you can include are quotes. If facilities or IT has provided you with some information, that's helpful for the proposal. You know, diagrams, design information, anything that you can think of is very helpful. And to attach and upload an attachment, you want to hit the upload icon here. If you have not saved your document at this point, you will not see that particular icon. So you need to save your document at least once, and then you should be able to see the upload document icon. So to select and upload a file, you'll just click choose upload, select the file from your folder and hit OK. And you can see the document is now attached. And to do, if you can add multiple documents, so you could just go through the same process again. And if you wanted to delete that attachment, again, you could delete the attachment by hitting the icon. So our proposal is ready to submit. So we'll just save it one last time. And you'll see that the proposal here, as far as the different categories, are now populated, and you'll see a draft status. So to submit the proposal, we'll just go back into it, submit, and now you'll see the status has changed from draft to submitted. And at that point, you cannot edit the proposal any longer. You'd have to request that the proposal be returned to draft status through myself or the FPA, and we can return it back for you to edit. So just going back to the main menu, just a couple of line items. There are some filter criteria here at the top. So if you've entered proposals in past years, you could look at last year's submissions for your particular area and see and review proposals from last year. And if you're entering multiple proposals for different types, you could also filter on capital-only proposals or investment proposals. And the last thing, if you want to print or share your proposal with anyone, you could export it to Excel or export it to PDF. And then to do that, you would just click on the boxes for each box that you want to print, and a document would be created for those two proposals. So let's say we're just going to create a PDF for just this proposal. You'll click on it and then hit export to Excel, and then in a few moments, a PDF report would be created. And this is an example of what the proposal would look like. Okay, that's it for a demonstration of a capital proposal. At this point, I'd just like to ask if there are any about capital proposals or anything about the intake tool.
Susan, it's Allison. I know typically we don't put in separate entries for the capital projects that I typically put in. Is that different, or is that just what has been always available, but I just don't typically do that? I.e. putting in like the various like items and stuff separately?
You should be putting in various items, like high level categories, right? So if you have renovations, you want to include the renovation. If you have a separate category for equipment, you want to break out that component to equipment. So you don't necessarily, if you want to add a level of detail to what you know for the project. So the expend types are a good guideline to use. So if you review the expend types and you realize, oh, I have an expend type for one category, you should have a line item for that category.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds like that's it. So I'll pass it over to Danielle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. In addition to capital proposals, there are 3 types of operating proposals that can be submitted in the intake tool: annual investment proposals, annual IT proposals, And new as of last year, we also have staffing requests. Annual investment proposals are requests for use of funds that support strategic aspirations and are primarily operating in nature. Annual IT proposals are requests for use of funds that support information technology needs, such as new systems, system upgrades, and system modifications. The staffing request option was introduced last year, and it's to request staffing resources needed to maintain operational levels of service. This selection should only be chosen for staffing asks. Some projects require both staffing and non-staffing costs. Those requests should still be entered as part of an annual investment proposal and not a staffing request. For example, a project may require licensing fees or consultant fees to a vendor, plus additional staffing resources from the college. These costs would all be requested together under the annual investment proposal option. In addition, we have some further direction related to proposals, which includes making sure you clearly identify one-time versus ongoing or recurring costs. You'll also want to ensure that you accurately enter staffing details by consulting with your designated HRSP if required. You will want to confirm the correct employee group for the position that you're requesting, whether it's administrative, support, or faculty. You'll also want to determine if the requested position is a full-time permanent position, so a position that begins with 9-9, or a full-time contract role. For example, an SP position, an IO position, or a PNRK. As a reminder, IOs are full-time contract positions for initiatives and opportunities, and they're subject to full-time benefits of 26%. PNRKs, or PNs as they're sometimes referred to, are full-time contract positions of non-recurring kind. This means that they can have a duration of up to 1 year. If the position is filled with a non-full-time employee, it is subject to part-time benefits of 15%. SPs are full-time contract positions for special projects. If the position is filled with a non-full-time employee, it is subject to benefits of 15% for part-time. Please note that if an existing full-time employee enters a PN or SP position, they are still allowed full-time benefits and will be charged to a full-time account. Your HRSP can also help you identify the appropriate pay band for the position, provide a realistic start date, and assess implications if there are changes to existing positions. With respect to the start date, we would not expect to see new position requests in the intake tool with April 1st start dates based on the timing of the approval process for investment proposals. We also need to consider the time that it takes to recruit for the position. So with that, we generally recommend that the earliest start date you input for new positions is June 1st onward. And now we will dive into our demonstration of the investment proposal process. Okay, so here on my screen that I'm sharing, we are already in the intake tool, which Susan showed how to enter. So it's the same system, the same pathway that we would use to go into the system. And it's the same way that we would start a new proposal as Susan demonstrated for capital. We just hit the new icon in the top left-hand corner. So the nice thing about the intake tool is that we have the exact same screens that we walk through for investment proposals as we do for the capital proposals. There's just a couple of little differences, which we'll walk through in this demonstration. The main difference on the proposal screen is the proposal classification drop-down menu. So from this menu, you will not select the capital proposal option. You'll either want to select the annual investment proposal option, the annual IT investment proposal, or the staffing request option. So in this case, we're going to walk through an annual investment proposal. What you select here drives what comes up in the sub-classification section. So in this drop-down menu, we have 4 different options. So first, we need to decide if our project is a regulatory project or not regulatory. Regulatory just refers to whether the project is something that's required by law. So in this case, we're going to assume that it's not required by law, it's just a regular project. We then have to determine whether or not our project has staffing costs or does not have staffing costs. So in this example, we'll go through a project that does have staffing costs. Aside from these two drop-down menus, all of the other fields on this screen would be completed the same way that you would have completed them in the capital proposal section that Susan just demonstrated. Similarly, the link to the strategic plan section also has the same questions and drop-down menus as the capital proposal. Resourcing is also the same, which is great. So if you do have any additional resource requirements, you can populate them in this section. The financial cost is where you really see a difference between the capital proposals. There's a lot more information that's required for investment proposals. This screen is also the same for IT requests and staffing requests. So to start off, the first option is for full-time salary and benefit requirements. If your investment proposal requires a full-time permanent position, so a position that begins with the numbers 99, you would want to fill out this section. So you would hit add cost and this line would pop up. And in this box, you want to populate the proposed position title, as well as the employee group that that position would fall under. So in this example, let's assume that we are requesting a manager position and it is from the admin, the administrative employee group. So you would just populate that in this field. You also want to input your estimated start date of that position. So in this case, we're going to assume June 1st, 2024 is the start date of that full-time permanent position. You'll also want to populate your estimate of the annual salary. So if you're unsure of this amount, you can connect with your HRSP and they should be able to assist you with providing an estimate. So in this example, we'll just assume that it's $90,000. Once you click out of that box, you'll notice that these columns automatically populate. This is a great resource for us because it takes into consideration the salary that you've input, as well as the start date and the benefits. So the benefits in this case have automatically calculated at 26% because it's a full-time permanent position. You'll also notice that the fiscal years have populated the amounts, and these amounts include both salary and benefits. You'll notice that for 24-25, the amount is slightly less than 25-26 onwards. And the reason why is because it prorates it for the start date that you've input in this box. So let's say we had changed this to July 1st, 2024. You'll notice that amount changes to a lower amount because it prorates it. So new this year, we have the FOPL fields in the intake tool. So this has changed. We didn't have these in there in previous years, but this is to help us with knowing where the budget should be uploaded to if your investment proposal is ultimately approved. So you'll want to fill out all of the fields that are in here. You will notice that the program code is not here. And the reason why is because with investment proposals, we typically create new program codes. And so you won't have that information available at this point in time. So we'll just go through and assume that the fund is 1100. Just select the first org here. Of course, you'll want to pick the org that is relevant to the project, but for the purpose of this example, we'll just select this one. With the account, you just want to take extra caution to make sure that you select the account that corresponds with the position that you're requesting. So in this case, it's a full-time permanent position and it's part of the administrative employee group. So that would be account 41501. If you're not sure of what account to use, that's okay. Just connect with your financial planning analyst and they can provide you with the account that you should use in your investment proposal. Then we'll select the activity code and the location. So again, you'll want to make sure that the FOPL elements you select are relevant to your project. This is just for the purpose of the example. And now you have completed the full-time permanent request section. If you need to request more positions in addition to this one, you would just keep hitting the add cost button and it would pop new boxes up for you. The next option for full-time staff is the contract section. So up here we had full-time permanent positions, so the ones that start with 99. And then here we have full-time contract positions. So this would be any of your SPs, PNs, or IOs. So in this section, you want to fill in the position title, but you also want to fill in whether it's an SP, a PN, or an IO. And if you're not sure of which contract it would be, you can connect with your HRSP and they can provide you with guidance on which contract type you want to include. So in this case, we're going to assume that we're hiring an analyst, or we'd like to for this project, and it would be an SP contract. So you would want to put that information in here so that we know which one you're requesting. The main difference between requesting a contract position and requesting a full-time permanent position is that we also have to input the estimated end date for that role. So in this case, we'll assume that this role is also starting June 1st, 2024. And then let's say this project is going to be a multi-year project, so we want to have this position for the duration of that project. We would then put in our estimated end date. So we'll go to a future year, let's say 2027. Then you also need to populate your annual salary estimate. So for the purpose of the demonstration, we'll input 65,000, for example. And again, you'll notice that the benefits automatically calculate. So for contract positions, it automatically calculates at 26% for the intake tool. And then the fiscal year columns have also automatically populated based on your start and end dates. And then because the position, we've put that it would end in 2027, you don't see any budget in that last column there. And again, we'll want to fill in the focal elements that correspond with this position, making sure we pay close attention to the account that we select so that it aligns with the type of position that you're requesting. So again, if you're not sure about which elements to select here, just contact your FPA and they can provide you with guidance on that piece. We also have a section for part-time salary and benefit requests. So this is for all other positions, so not full-time contracts, not full-time permanent, but everything else. So if you do have a part-time position you're requesting, just hit add cost. You would want to input both the position title and the employee group. So support, faculty, or admin. And if you're forgetting any of these pieces as you go through, the I button is a really helpful tool because it gives you little reminders of pieces of information that you should include. So this whole page has the I button and it's very, very helpful to reference. You'll also want to populate the start and end dates for the part-time position. And in this case, we don't put an annual salary amount. It requests that we put an hourly rate. So let's say that this position had a rate of $20 an hour. Now the estimated hours in this box, this is the estimated hours over the life of the position. It's not the estimated hours for a year. So let's put an example in here. We'll also use June 1st, 2024 as the estimated start date, and we'll just take this estimated end date here as well. So if we assume this position is going to work 2,500 hours, it will prorate the number of hours based on the start and end dates. So you don't actually have to calculate that. The tool will do it for you. You'll see it automatically spreads that salary and benefit cost across the fiscal years. The benefits are calculated at 15% because it's for a part-time position. And again, you'll want to populate the focal elements in this section as well, paying close attention to that account that you select. If your proposal also has non-salary costs, you'll want to refer to this middle section here. So there's two different types of non-salary costs. We can either have ongoing costs, which are recurring. We expect them to happen, annually or indefinitely. And then we also have one-time costs. So we only expect to incur that cost, maybe one time. So an ongoing cost example would be if we had, let's say, licensing fees that we have to pay each year. Maybe it's $1,000 a year. You have to manually populate it in each of the fiscal years. And again, we also have the focal element down here. So you would fill all of the focal fields out and just make sure that the account that you select here matches the type of expense that you've put on the left-hand side. For one-time non-salary costs, An example could be maybe for one of these positions, we need to get some equipment for them. So maybe it's a laptop, headphones, keyboard, etc. So put those details in there. And then you would just plug in when you expect the cost to be incurred. So let's say it's in that first fiscal year, plug the amount in as an example. And again, you want to put the focal fields in here. You could have multiple costs, so you would just keep hitting add cost and fill out the fields for each of them. The final piece on the financial costs and benefits screen is the financial benefits. So this section is if you expect to have any cost savings as a result of the project or any new revenue generated as a result of the project. If we click on the I button, it gives a little bit more insight into what that means. So an example of cost savings could be if we have part-time salary savings because we're converting a position to full-time, or we might have new revenue that we're expecting to generate as part of the initiative. So you want to try and be as descriptive as you can in this section just to outline how you're achieving cost savings or how you expect to have new revenue. One thing to keep in mind is that only new revenue sources being generated for the college as a result of the initiative should be included. Post-secondary tuition revenue wouldn't count because it fluctuates each year based on enrollments, and it's not a new revenue source for the college. Anything that is grant funded or CAF funded should be excluded from the IP and capital process unless you're requesting full-time permanent positions. And just as a little demonstration, say we did have some new revenue in here. We just type in description, add some extra details in here from where the revenue is coming from. Say we expect that some revenue in fiscal 25-26. So you'll notice right now the total net impact of the project is about $214,000. If you add in revenue here, it'll reduce that net impact because the revenue would be offsetting the costs that you've put above for the staffing and the non-staffing. And you'll also want to put a focal in here. So keep in mind if it's new revenue, you'll want to use a revenue account. Again, your FPA can help you with selecting what account you should use if you're unsure of that piece. Once you've filled out this screen, definitely make sure you hit save, just because there's a lot of good information in here. We don't want to lose all of that. And you can move on to the attachment screen. So this screen, it's optional for non-capital proposals. If you have any supporting documentation that you want to include, this is where you can upload it. And then you'll want to go back to each of these screens, just make sure everything has been filled out, everything with an asterisk, and you can go ahead and hit submit and just make sure that there's no error messages. And that essentially concludes the demonstration for operating investment proposals. If there are any questions, I'd like to open the floor for that right now.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I just have a question about the portal. So is it open now for submissions, and how long will it be open for?
Great question. So the portal is not open just yet. It opens on Monday, and it'll be open for 2 full weeks. We also will be going over some other timelines at the end of this presentation as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Any other questions? Okay, if not, we will jump back to the presentation. So during the budget review process, the proposal can move through different statuses. So following the submission of a proposal, the status will change from draft to submitted, and an automated email will be sent to the proposal submitter, the proposal requester, and the project sponsor. This is confirmation that the project has been received in the system and is ready for budget review. If a proposal is moved back to draft status, this means that finance has reviewed the proposal and returned it to the proposal submitter to request a change. An email is sent only to the submitter, and it will contain the details of the requested change. The proposal can then be edited and resubmitted. So for example, if your FPA requests a modification to the costing, the status will be changed to draft so that you can go in and edit the proposal. If the proposal is changed to declined, hold, or canceled, an email notification is sent to all 3 roles to report the change. If the proposal moves to the Proceed to Budget Planning Committee, or BPC status, this means that it has been forwarded to the Budget Planning Committee for assessment. In this instance, only the proposal submitter and the proposal requester will receive an automated email that the status has moved to this stage. If the proposal moves to approved status, the project is approved for budget allocation and all 3 roles are notified. Spending on a project can't begin until the project has moved to this approved status. This table is provided under Appendix 4 of the manual, which Susan showed where you can access it on the intake page. Here's an example of an automated email that is sent to the proposal submitter when the project has been returned to draft status. As you'll see, the subject line states action required. The email identifies the project number, so the MC number, the project name, and the project status. The message provides the details of the change that is being requested. In this case, an attachment of a quote is requested. In summary, while there are several types of statuses, only the draft status will be an actionable item for the proposal submitter and requires a response. All other statuses are for update purposes in order to alert you as it proceeds through the budget review stages. For login issues and any other technical assistance with the intake tool, please contact Femi Ejibodu. For general questions along the way, you can contact Susan Freilich for questions on capital requests and your designated FPA for investment proposals, IT proposals, and staffing requests. And now I will pass it back to Samir to discuss next steps.
Perfect. Thanks, Danielle. So in terms of the timelines that we have set out, just as Danielle mentioned, from November 20th to December the 1st, financial managers will have the ability to review and evaluate their needs and enter requests into the intake system. The senior leadership team will prioritize a request for their areas. VPs will review the prioritization with their teams and then make any final adjustments. On December 4th, the investment IT and capital proposal reports will be distributed to VPs. On December the 7th to the 11th, finance will meet with each of the VPs to review their priority requests. Starting from December 13th to the 21st, finance will then prepare the committee reports for committee meetings that will take place in January. And so the investment and IT proposal committee, as well as the campus master plan implementation committee meetings, will happen from January 4th to the 5th to discuss the top priorities. From January 8th to the 12th, finance will review and assess the financial impact of the priority requests. And on January 17th, COVP will meet to review the financial impact of those priorities and adjust and finalize which proposals we're going to be moving forward with. By the 19th, we will have reviewed the financial impact of those priorities. And this will, at the end, be presented on February 28th on MEG Budget Day for final approval, and then will be presented to the Audit, Finance, and Infrastructure Committee on April the 10th, followed by a Board of Governors approval on April the 17th. So that concludes our presentation, and I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. With no questions, I will conclude the presentation, and I would like to thank you for joining our presentation today. And if you do have any questions, if it's capital related, please reach out to Susan. And if it is an investment proposal or a staffing proposal or an IT proposal, please reach out to your FPAs. Thank you, everyone.